tuned into RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
4 seconds left. In front. Happy moment. The Tampa Bay Lightning have won the first Stanley Cup. And the Tampa Bay Lightning have won the Stanley Cup. Lightning strikes twice. The Tampa Bay Lightning win their second straight Stanley Cup.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to RBLR Lightning. As always, my name is Jake Ricker, and alongside me, it's my good friends and co-hosts Joe Zamataro and MacKinnon. Guys, welcome back to the show. I just have one question. Now what? The season is officially over. We did our season recap video last week, which, by the way, if you missed that, another reason for you to go over there and like and subscribe or follow along wherever you may be listening so you don't miss out on episodes just like this one. But guys, welcome. And first and foremost, how you doing today?
Doing pretty well now that, the guys are out golfing. Unfortunately, I guess I spend a little bit too much time in the sun. I kind of look like, Matt after he spent a long day outside there. How you guys doing?
I'm doing great. My summer has officially started, and, it sucks that there's no Lightning hockey to be played. Again, we swallowed that pill last week, but what's next is we've got player grades coming up. Jake, sorry to steal your thunder, but
No, it was the perfect segue. So yeah, we got an awesome series coming up for you guys that we'll be doing throughout a decent portion of the offseason. Of course, we'll be updating you on all of the fun offseason news and draft and free agency and all that stuff that comes along as we move through the offseason. But we're going to start off with player grades. We'll be going through a couple of players each episode, so another reason for you to tune in each and every week as we grade these players, take a look at how they did this season and what could be ahead for them upcoming as well, depending on their contract situation or whether they could be traded, stuff like that. It's going to be a lot of fun. Highly recommend you tune in and listen to each week. It should be a good one. And with that said, guys, I say we jump right into it. So we're starting off with a big one, and it's none other than Nikita Kucherov. Now, we could probably do an entire episode on Nikita Kucherov all by himself because he just had that crazy of a season. And the list goes on from breaking records, winning the point race this year. He's been nominated for both the MVP and Ted Lindsay, which both are MVPs, by the way, but just one is voted on by the writers, one's voted on by the players. But he's up for 2 awards this year. He was the sole person that basically got the Lightning into the playoffs. He did so much this year, broke so many records and did so many things. And let's start there with your guys' thoughts on Nikita Kucherov and what he did this season. Or really the question should be, what did he not do this season? Because he basically did it all.
Man, yeah, he was the heart and soul of the team all season long, and it wasn't like he really took many games off. If you look, he has more games with 3 assists with 3 points than he has with no points. He just was absolutely scorching this year, and it's funny too because he also started. He had 100 assists, which you guys can remind me when the last time that was done, which year it was, but it hasn't been done since some of the greats, and he also was scoring. Like he was taking a lot more shots than he normally would in the beginning part of the season. It's almost like we unlocked a new level of Kucherov.
yeah, when he hit that 128 point mark in 2019, I didn't think he would ever pass that number. I thought it would be impossible for kind of anybody to do it. I didn't think McDavid would ever do it, and he hit 150 last year. 144 points, that's crazy. Unfortunately, Joe, the person that did it before Kucherov did it a couple days before.
Previous season.
But before that, it was, back in the 90s or something. He's the first winger to ever hit 100 points. He set the record for most points or most assists by a winger in NHL history, which is just crazy. It's just absolutely crazy in and of itself. So, yeah, you could see exactly how much he meant to this team. We talk about the Hart Trophy and how he literally fits the bill for the description of the Hart Trophy, most valuable player to your team. And when the Florida Panthers in the playoff series isolated Kucherov and really shut him down, you could see the rest of the team just not crumble around him, but you take away the lifeblood. You cut the head off of the team, the body's going to die. So you can just see how exactly important he was to the team. I mean, his play on the ice speaks for himself. We don't need to tell you why he's the MVP.
Yeah, it was truly unbelievable this year in the things that he did, the record that he broke. I mean, it was how many times we put him. We called the 3 stars of the week Nikita Kucherov 3 stars of the week because we were like, we're going to put him in here every single week at this point, and we ran out of words to say when it came to Kucherov. Before we get into some of the player grades and like specifically what we were going to give Kucherov, I have a feeling I know the grade that Kucherov was going to get from all 3 of us. But let's do this. You guys have a favorite moment from Nikita Kucherov this year?
So the first one that popped into my head immediately was, I can't remember which goal it was at what time in the game, but I remember it was against the Seattle Kraken, and I think he scored a goal or had a great assist or something like that, and immediately went up to a Kraken fan, got up in his face, and I can't exactly remember the scenario, but that was the first thing that popped into my head.
I think that player was constantly screaming at that fan was constantly screaming at the bench all night long and just flicking them off anytime they went by. So it was one of those like moments where he actually interacted back towards the fan, and it definitely off character from what we're used to seeing in terms of someone getting under his skin or him caring about someone that's not on the ice. Let's put it that way, because his interviews are usually quite stoic, and Stamkos scored 50. How do you feel about that? It's good for him. He gives more emotion, for other people than I guess his own. I'd say one of my favorite. There's so many moments. That was a great one that you brought up. But some of the assists that he had this season, and I'm just gonna lump in, pretty much all together. He had. I'll bring up 2, and I'm sure we can bring up more plays. But there's one where he went into the inboards, and I can't remember which team he was playing against, but he was down at one knee, battling 2 guys, and put it out front for Braden Point to shoot a one-timer into the net. He beat 2 guys from his knees and made an amazing assist. And there's another one to Braden Point as well that wasn't against it was the Avs. I remember that. He went behind his back on a 2-on-1. He went behind his back to pass it across to Braden Point for a goal. The way he's able to just find guys that are open, it's truly amazing. And that was the highlights for me, seeing his vision on the ice, which was unlike anyone else's.
Those are 2 great moments that you guys picked right there from Nikita Kucherov. My favorite moment was all of the breakaway goals that he scored. No, I'm kidding. Those really didn't happen this year. I had to throw a little bit of a dig at Kuch, even though he was so good this year. This one may be a little bit of a cop-out, but for me, it's got to be the 100th assist when he finally hit that plateau that we waited a little bit for, because he kind of slowed down for a little bit there, because sometimes it gets hard to hit that major milestone when you get close to it. But hitting that 100th assist and seeing how excited everybody was, even Kucherov was cracking smiles, which you rarely see him do. Sergachev coming out there and congratulating him while he was injured. That by far for me, I think, was my favorite Nikita Kucherov moment right there.
It is a bit of a cop-out answer, Jake, but I will allow it. It is probably the right choice.
Yeah, there's been so much with him where he just kind of ran the show, and so many moments to think about. Is there, since I kind of talked some plays, is there any goals that you guys particularly remember from him?
All the goals came pretty early in the year. Like, him and Braden Point kind of traded places with the goal scoring. Even Steven Stamkos really traded places. There's really none that stick out to me. I know he had a couple of beautiful one-timers, a couple of just really, seeing eye shots that get through the goalie. There's none that are really sticking out to me, though. I for whatever reason, I can't. I guess I'll have to do my research.
That's what I would probably have brought up, is literally just the one-timers, because I kind of cracked on him last year about how...
Yeah, you did.
how he didn't have that pretty of a one-timer. And this, oh, there you go, Jake. You look a little better.
I apologize. Yeah, my camera looking like a ghost out there. I don't know what is going on with the darn thing, but almost like Nikita Kucherov being a ghost on the penalty shot. So
Oh,
I gotta stop taking digs at him. Kucherov is great. But
yeah, but his one-timers, he I don't know that his form improved per se, but I think he must have practiced because he started nailing them with a lot more regularity than he used to. And something we didn't see as much this season was his like fake slap shots or fake one-timers for passing. Even though he had all those assists, he didn't really use that maneuver as much as he did last year, which I thought was kind of interesting.
I think he used it a good bit, but I don't know if it was as effective. I definitely noticed it a little bit more in the later half of the year, but yeah, it definitely probably wasn't as apparent as last year.
It makes me wonder a little bit, is that possibly because Braden Point was being covered up significantly more this year on the power play, and that's when he typically used that.
just goes to show you that even when guys tried to make an adjustment to stop Nikita Kucherov, he just found other ways to go ahead and score points. That's how unbelievably good he is. I'm surprised you guys have not brought up what I thought you would say for your favorite moment for Nikita Kucherov this season. And it happened dead middle of the season. Some people hated it. Some people loved it. And of course, I'm talking about the All-Star game where Kucherov was the star of the show, whether it was for good or for worse. But he definitely got all the attention during that with his, let's call it, fun performance, where he was, didn't have a great performance statistically wise, but he sure seemed like he was having fun and taking on the boos from the crowd out there in Toronto.
Yeah, that was a good moment. I know a lot of people still are offended by it, hate him for it. I mean, if people didn't have enough ammo against Kucherov, I guess they'll use this against him. People are trying to say he shouldn't be nominated for the Hart because of it. It's just crazy to me. I like the All-Star game. I know it's dumb and chintzy and cheesy, but of course, I'm going to be biased for my own guy. But if I saw Brady Tkachuk, just dogging it out there, picking a random name out of a hat, I wouldn't care. I think people just don't like the guy, so that's why they're using it against him. I loved it. I was cackling laughing.
I started seeing a lot more people defending what he was doing later, well after it, and not even Tampa fans, and because he was there to have a like a free party weekend essentially. People joking rather that he may have been drunk on the ice and was just hamming around. Like, who cares about this stuff? We're just here to have a good time too. And it's really hard to take the skills competition seriously, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just there to maybe have one or two guys make you go, wow. A lot of it is relatively underwhelming, like the hardest shot competition. You're going to have two guys that put up big numbers, and the rest of them are going to be mediocre at best. So what's wrong with him having his fun? It's something different, at least. It was entertaining, I thought.
Well, you look back at it, and I think it's just fun now. Again, hate it or love it. At this point, it's just a funny thing to remember. Listen, I'll be the first to admit I didn't love it for me, because I'm one person that actually looks forward to the skills competition. I know a lot of people aren't big fans of it, but I actually enjoy it. And I was excited to see Nikita Kucherov compete. I should have known better in knowing Nikita Kucherov's personality, because it's totally him. Because I don't know if you guys saw this, but when the Lightning were down in Sunrise, and the team took like a beach day, I think it was right after Game 3, and the social media team posted pictures of guys playing volleyball on the beach. And there's one picture of Anthony Duclair, and you can see one Nikita Kucherov sitting just on the bench or whatever, just stone cold face, not like Duclair smiling, shirt off, having a blast, and then just Kucherov in the background staring straight off into the distance, thinking about who knows what. That is the classic Nikita Kucherov style. It's just not his thing. He doesn't enjoy that kind of thing. I think he gets more kick out of getting booed and people talking about how he just dogged the all-star game. I think he enjoys that more than actually doing those competitions. But I did get a kick out of that picture. I don't know if you guys saw that or not.
Oh, yeah. Oh no, that's a great picture. I think the word we're looking for is stoicism. Maybe I might be stretching a little bit, but yeah, the league loves a villain, and I certainly do too.
It's funny thinking of him as a villain because there's other guys that are thugs on other teams.
Yeah,
And Cooch has taken his fair share of bad penalties, hacking some guys after plays when he gets frustrated. But overall, he's not like a necessarily a dirty player. He just is skilled, and there's such hate that comes his way. You can understand why he reacts the way he does when like when they won the cup, and he's doing his interview. That was a brilliant moment, and I mean, he only did that because he was getting such hate before, and it must be something that he does thrive on and enjoy. How many people can you think of that have careers like that get that much hate? The only other guy I can think of is honestly like MacKinnon gets a ton of hate, and I think it's just because he's ultra competitive and like a good player.
I don't think he gets a ton of hate.
There's a ton of people that hate on MacKinnon.
Oh no, man! I don't see that at all. I think he's like the new golden boy, man. I don't see much of it. It might be you reading my comments because I'll be in there. He doesn't deserve the Hart Trophy. I don't see that. I see a lot more hate for other players, but I'm not going to argue it.
It's let's call it the New England Patriot effect. When you're winning and you're doing really good, people are going to find things to not like about you. It's understandable. I mean, we, as fans just kind of do that naturally. So I'm not surprised that Kucherov gets a lot of hate because he's been so good for so many years and had another unbelievable year. I mean, heck, even in the postseason, from his standard, you look at it and maybe say he was quiet, but he still had 7 points in that series. So he was still, even at his worst, Kucherov is playing so good. And something else that's standing out to me about this year is, one, we should have known this season was coming when he might already be practicing for next year right now. Kucherov at the end of the season last year took a week off and then started practicing again. I haven't heard any reports of that yet, but Kucherov is the type of guy, like, he even said it this year. He's like, listen, we could be playing better. And he had said that like after a game he scored 5 points in or something crazy like that. So Kucherov is just such a hard worker as well. Even if he doesn't show the more personality side of himself that the media loves to enjoy and fans, but he is such a hard worker, and it showed especially this season, and I wouldn't be surprised if it happens again going into next season. But that's Nikita Kucherov, and now he's up for the Hart Trophy and the 10 Lindsay as well. So will they win it? I don't know. It remains to be seen. I think Kucherov deserves both of them, no question.
It's really tough, and the trophies are essentially the same, and they're coveted a little bit differently. I don't know why the Hart is the MVP trophy when, again, they're essentially the same thing. It's just who votes on it. Yeah, and but the Hart is taken so much more seriously than the Ted Lindsay Trophy. But I do have an argument for each case, and I 100% think Kucherov should win the Hart. I think I'm not going to say he will win the Hart. That's a can of worms, but I think he should win the Hart. But with the Ted Lindsay Trophy, with who is it, MacKinnon and Matthews as well, the other nominees.
That's all it was. It was MacKinnon and Matthews. It wasn't McDavid in it.
No, McDavid did not make it for the Lindsay.
For the Ted Lindsay, right? It was Kucherov, Matthews, MacKinnon, and then the Hart is Kucherov, MacKinnon, and McDavid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't understand how it all works. I mean, I get 69 goals is really impressive. The season Nathan MacKinnon had was really impressive. Do we know the exact verbiage for the trophy for the Ted Lindsay? Isn't it like the most outstanding player as voted on by the NHLPA, something along those lines?
I'm going to pull it up right now.
The Ted Lindsay Award, formerly known as the Lester B. Pearson Award, is awarded annually to the NHL's most outstanding player in the regular season as judged by the members of the NHL Players Association. So it's the Players Award, the Players MVP.
It's going to be hard for Kucherov to win that one, and I know a lot of the time it is a pretty clean sweep with, the Hart and the Lindsay Trophy. But again, I've said my case with the Hart Trophy on why, he was the most valuable player to his team. You take MacKinnon away from the Avalanche, they're still pretty decent. You take Kucherov away from the Lightning, they're a lottery team. It's just apples and oranges, really. It's just not comparable with. It is comparable. I'm not going to be that rude to MacKinnon, but Kucherov did so much more with so much less.
Yeah.
And that's really what it comes down to.
I mean, with MacKinnon, he was second in points, right? And then also you have Rantanen that was 8th in points on Colorado. You had Makar that was 16th in points on Colorado. Let's see, Makar had 90 points. Yeah, so I mean, he had some solid help around them. Same thing when you look at McDavid, Draisaitl, 106 points. He was 7th. And then let's see who else he got. But I mean, him and Bouchard was 25th. So that's starting to work pretty far down the list. We had for Kucherov, we get at place number.
Oh no.
He's at one by saying for his help. Braden Point, 17th with 90 points. Then you got to go down to 26th, just above Bouchard, to find Steven Stamkos with 81 points. So I mean, he definitely was working or did more with less, and with a brand new system that the team was utilizing, which really, really, really hurt puck possession the first half of the season, getting it out of our defensive zone, getting it into Kucherov's hands.
And the argument that I've seen as well is that Kucherov had 2 40-goal scorers, there with him. But I love Braden Point, but you have to admit, I mean, he is a bit of a product of Nikita Kucherov. He doesn't get 50 goals last year, 45, 44 goals this year without, being, half of one of the best pairs in the league. But he is a bit of a product of Nikita Kucherov. It's, good players are good on their own. MacKinnon and McDavid and Matthews, they're very good on their own, but good players make their teams, their lines better around them. And again, I think he really did that. He made his entire team, whoever he was playing with, he made Connor Sherry look like a good option for a couple of games. Like that's
okay for a couple of games.
That's how good he was when Connor Sherry was playing top line minutes. He scored 2 goals in a game or something like that. I think both assisted from Kucherov. Like if he can get Connor Sherry to find the back of the net, that's good enough right there for the Hart Trophy.
Yeah, and I would say to back it up even more, the argument for Kucherov, a lot of people were talking about how the Lightning are power play merchants completely. Well, they aren't completely, but MacKinnon had 48 power play points. Kucherov had 53. It's a difference of 5. 5-point difference between the two. So you can't really consider what Kucherov was doing to be purely on the power play. For those that think that's the only way that we're scoring points with him, that was, a little more than a third of the points that he got, but it wasn't all of them. It wasn't the main way that he was scoring points.
And the power play merchants tag, Jake, you'll get a word in here in a second. But the power play merchant tag is so stupid to me as well, because a power play, it's not one guy, doing the whole thing. As much as we joke about Kucherov controlling the entire power play, again, that's getting 5 guys to work as a cohesive unit and make everybody on the ice currently try to score a goal. It's not one guy just rifling pucks and feed it to this guy and feed it to this guy and feed it to this guy. No, he is the lifeblood of the power play. He's making all 4 of his other skaters out there with him better as well. So, and again, since when is scoring on the power play a bad thing? I don't know why that's like an argument against him. Oh, he's scored so many power play points. Why is that a bad thing? It's just dumb to me.
Jake?
I think you know what I'm going to say, right? Points are points, right? They don't ask how, they ask how many. That is the way it goes. It doesn't matter how you score them, shorthanded, power play, 5-on-5, 5-on-3, who cares? Goals are goals and points are points. To me, I don't think it matters how you score those goals. And listen, Kucherov, I think, is clearly the most valuable player. I don't think the Lightning make the playoffs without him. And the Lightning lost, guys like Andrei Vasilevsky for the first half of the season. Kucherov was there to help them out offensively. How many times and how many games was Kucherov always scoring goals or had assists to set up goals to get the Lightning wins in big games. I don't think it's any question on whether he's the most valuable player, which, by the way, that's the one difference between the two trophies. The one word, the Hart is valuable. Ted Lindsay is outstanding player. So if you want to make an argument that either Matthews or MacKinnon had a more outstanding year overall, I think that's maybe where you can get a better argument because, listen, Kucherov defensively can be hit or miss sometimes. That's one area. He's more of an offensive-minded guy, I think. Granted, that's what he's paid to do is be great offensively.
And that number is staggering, too. He's a +8 where MacKinnon and McDavid are both +35.
Right. So there's one of your
and Kucherov's also a winger versus 2 centers as well. So 3 centers if you want to throw Matthews in there.
But that's what so to me, for my money, I think Kuch is a lock for the Hart. If you want to make an argument for the Ted Lindsay, I could maybe understand it because you're looking at more of an overall game. But even still, with that discrepancy in the plus-minus category, I think Kucherov is just that good. And I think that he'll win. I hope that he'll win both of them. He probably wins the Ted Lindsay by the players and doesn't end up winning the Hart, even though I would think it would be the other way around just because the writers are voting for the Hart.
I think it's the opposite way. I think that Kucherov, I don't think he will win the trophy. I hope he wins the Hart Trophy. I think he will win the Hart Trophy. Let's say that. I think MacKinnon should win the Ted Lindsay Trophy. And it sucks to say, but visually, I think the eye test really plays a part because it's the players. It's the players playing against, MacKinnon and Kucherov and McDavid. And let's call a spade a spade. MacKinnon is a horse out there. I mean, he really does take over games. He's got wicked speed. He scores great goals. But visually, the players probably think he's probably a more outstanding player, a better player. And again, that exactly fits the description for the Ted Lindsay Trophy. But Kucherov, objectively, was more valuable to his team. That's why I think he should win the Hart Trophy. So if I had a vote for both of them, yeah, Kucherov, Hart, MacKinnon, Ted Lindsay. And I think that's fair. I think that's very fair. Both of those trophies are extreme accomplishments. Again, a lot of people put so much stock into the Hart Trophy. If Kucherov gets one, I'll be super excited. But that's just the way I think the voting should go. If I had a vote, Kuch, Hart, MacKinnon, Lindsay.
That makes sense. And you also, you're saying that they're both for MacKinnon and McDavid, back to them, but they're both centers for their plus minus. Same thing with Austin Matthews, and he was a +31. The centers do a lot more work than a winger does defensively. Like Kucherov, most of the time you're seeing him basically just kind of posted up on the right side boards, waiting for the breakout. And he's not going down and doing nearly as much below the hash mark. So that is a pretty valid, point for being all over the ice and affecting both things. The only other statistic that I wanted to throw out, because I looked it up real quick, is the number of points, the number of goals for each team versus what the individual players did. And it's not even close when it comes to Kucherov was figured in on 50% exactly to a T, 50% of all the Lightning goals.
It's so crazy to just hear it. It's crazy to see that on paper. I mean, that is.
What were the other ones, Joe?
So for Edmonton, I think Edmonton was the next one. They had a total of 292 goals, where McDavid had 132 assists. For the Avs, they had 302 goals to McKinnon's 140. And then Toronto was, again, it's 298. And then Matthews had 107. So, I mean, that was almost a third of them versus what Kuch did. That's staggering to me. I wonder when the last time someone had touched, a touch on 50% of the goals for a team for a season. It might be as recent as MacKinnon in one of those years, but that's really making sure you're participating in the offense.
Well, to all of our viewers who are tuning in with us, we appreciate you being here too. Let us know if you're here with us live. Let us know in the comments. What do you think about Nikita Kucherov? What grade would you give him in? What trophies does he deserve? We'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Speaking of grades, listen, I think I know where this is going, but guys, let's go through the grades real quick for Nikita Kucherov. Matt, what is your final grade for Kuch?
Are we taking playoffs into account?
I don't think so. Listen,
No?
the awards are regular season only, and we don't want to think about the playoffs anyway. So regular season.
Okay, I know he had a rough playoffs, but even if I was counting it, A plus. I mean, we just went on for nearly 30 minutes just talking about how great this guy is. We do it every single week. We named our star segment after him. He again just had reiterating everything that we were saying earlier. One of the greatest season ever by a winger. One of the greatest. No, Yager's up there. Just how much more can we say? We're really running out of breath, and I'm glad we can maybe put this Kucherov season to a rest because we are really running out of oxygen talking about the guy. So yeah, A plus, no doubt in my mind, even factoring in the so-so playoff performance, A plus. He was just tremendous every point of this season.
I got to repeat Eureka's grading. Eureka says that he gets an F for fantastic.
That.
Dad jokes up in there. I had to bring levity because I'm going to drop his grade down a little bit. I'm going to give him just an A. And oh my God, Jake is heartbroken.
Blasphemy. That's what that is.
And that, that really is because maybe the system's what let down the team in terms of being able to prevent goals. And maybe you don't want him staying in front of shots, but I didn't see the defensive side of his game be the absolute best that it could be. There's a couple of things that I would have, liked to have seen. You think of some players that can play defensively and offensively, and usually you can see Kucherov strip the puck from guys really well on the forecheck, but it seems like he doesn't do it nearly as much in the defensive zone. Again, I know that's somewhat scheme related, but he's not as aggressive as I would like for him to be, and that's the only reason for docking. Because in the end, he did everything he could on the offensive side of the puck, and I think that he still had some left in the tank to do it defensively. That difference between an A and an A plus, and I'm giving him, as if I need to justify it more than that. He did great this season. It was amazing.
Listen, Joe, everything you said is 100% justifiable. It totally makes sense. That's probably actually the grade he does deserve. With that said, A plus. There's no other way around it for me. Gooch was just that good that I kind of push aside the defensive issues that he maybe had this year. It was just that unbelievable. Like he didn't just lead the league in points. He broke records. He hit 100 assists. With becoming the fifth player it was after McDavid did it to do it in NHL history. Like there's so many unbelievable things that he did and so many records that he broke. And heck, he broke the franchise record for the Lightning, which by the way was his own record on how many points in a season. So he gets an A plus for me. There's no other question for me. A plus. I just
knew that. Go ahead. I was gonna say I knew you guys would probably give them both A pluses, so I had to be the the counter person there.
Me and Matt got the blue colored glasses on, grading which probably will happen throughout the rest of the series. But
real quick, with the defensive effort that both of you guys brought up, is it not better than it has been in previous years? I'm not saying it's good by any stretch, but I feel like we do see a little bit more effort than, just the guy that completely coasted back into the defensive zone and just nothing, just get me the puck and then I'll actually try. I feel like I did see a little bit more effort from him. I'm not saying that he was, Patrice Bergeron out there by any stretch, but I think it was a little bit better.
The second half of the season, the first half of the season, there was quite a few times where he was kind of coasting, or maybe it's even the first third of the season where he was kind of coasting defensively, but he did get a lot better this season, I would say.
Okay.
To be fair to Kucherov, the bar is extremely low when it comes to his defensive work. He's usually not that great, so it doesn't take much for him to look better. I'll tell you one place, by the way, where the bar is not low, and that's heading over to shop.rblrsports.com, where you can get awesome team-inspired merch from the Lightning, the Bucks, the Rays, the Rowdies. If you guys want to support us, we really appreciate it. You can head over to the shop, pick yourself some awesome team-inspired merch. Links, as always, are in the description. And for our amazing viewers here, you can use code BOLTS to get 10% off your order. So be sure to head over to shop.rblrsports.com and check out that awesome team-inspired merch over there as well. All right, let's go to our second player for today's episode, and that's going to be Mikey Eyssimont. Now, Eyssimont is a guy that He came over from the San Jose Sharks and came over in probably the funniest way possible when he first joined the team, when he had fought Braden Point just not too long ago and then joined him as teammates. This year, being a full season guy, he's quickly become one of my favorite underdog players, I would say, guys. You know, he's the guy he's a workhorse kind of player, kind of like that Yanni Gourde a little bit, that everybody likes to relate him to, that we so sorely miss because we constantly talk about him. But he's just that workhorse kind of guy, always fighting for something. Doesn't score a lot, doesn't make a lot of great, crazy plays, but he's always fighting for the puck, always throwing hits around, and he's not afraid to drop the gloves either. So, guys, your thoughts on Mikey Eyssimont this year?
God, I love Mikey Eyssimont. If he could find the back of the net a little bit more, if he could make a couple more plays, that'd be great. He's a mix between what I kind of just came to the conclusion of. He's a mix between Yanni Gourde and Matthew Joseph with his stick handling ability.
I like that.
Just absolute go, piss and vinegar. Just hates the world and anybody wearing the different color. But he just really has a rough time with scoring goals and making passes. And I'm not saying he's bad by any stretch. He's definitely better than Joseph in Bolts Blue. But just a good mix between those two. And Joseph, again, he was a valuable player here. Not as good as Nick Paul, but again, I think you know where I'm going with this. But I just love his tenacity, and that's probably the best way I can put it, is his tenacity. He is just always the first guy in a scrum. He's the guy starting the scrum. He'll back anybody up. And for being an undersized guy as well, he's as brave as they come. He'll take on anybody, no matter who it is. He'll give you a hack on the back of the leg. He knows where that padding stops and where it's not protected. He's not a cerebral player, but he knows how to really stir the pot, and that's a guy I like. I can really get along with the way he does play. So I think there is another gear for him to unlock, but at the role that he does play, third line guy, I'm quite fine with what he does bring. It'd be nice if he brought a little bit more. I think there is another gear that he can unlock. Maybe, practice a little bit harder, work with a couple of specialists, whatever. Again, working, just some of the guys that he plays with on his team could maybe help him out a little bit. But again, just a fantastic player. There's not much to not like about Mikey. We like Mike.
Yeah. And I also like the picture that they have on him for hockeyreference.com. It looks like it was a high school yearbook photo that was taken. You got to pull it up.
I got to go see it.
Because it's not a one in a jersey at all. But that said, yeah, I mean, I thought for sure that someone was going to bring up that he looked like Yanni Gourde out there with the way that he, constantly is in scrums, he breaks stuff up. But I love that you added in the Matthew Joseph's lack of a scoring touch, because I think that's really accurate. And he's faster, I believe, than Gourde is too.
Mm-hmm.
Gourde wasn't that quick-footed as Mikey is, and he really can't. I guess maybe he didn't have the line that he needed. I mean, didn't they put him up with Kucherov for a little bit, just to maybe give him bonus time during one of the games late in the season? It was during the regular season.
Maybe in a blowout or something. I can't quite remember.
Yeah, so he played great, and he played his role really well. And that role was to be a depth guy that eats up minutes and slows down the other team by being fast and hitting a lot. And I mean, he didn't do a bad job with scrumming it up. He had 104 penalty minutes. That's pretty good. He actually, am I reading this right? Of his goals, he had 2 game-winning goals. I didn't.
Oh, wow.
I don't think that I realized that some of them were that impressive, considering he only had 11 goals total. So I did like some of those aspects of his game. While like you mentioned, the scoring touch, the ability to make a pass or finish, he had so many chances to score, especially in tight, that he just didn't have the hands for. And that was a part of his game that definitely, I think, needs improvement. And if that does, that's the type of depth that you need, a relatively inexpensive guy that scores on a deeper line, and then you can start talking about making runs again for the Stanley Cup.
Listen, by the way, I saw the picture, Joe, that you're talking about in Hockey Reference.
It's funny.
That is amazing. That I don't know where that picture came from or why it hasn't been updated. But
even the half smirk smile, like that looks like something that would have been taken senior year.
If you haven't seen it, please go check it out. HockeyReference.com is where that picture is. But yeah, listen, Eyssimont, 81 games played, 11 goals, 14 assists, and 25 points, and was a +7. 25 points for a guy that's playing in the bottom six is not bad at all. I mean, anytime you get a 30-point season, that's still pretty good as well. A couple points off that, but offensively, he was still pretty good. I believe in the playoffs, there was a stat put out by JFresh of expected goals, and Eyssimont was one of the top guys. He did not score in the postseason. Like, he was playing really hard and playing well, just couldn't get that puck in the back of the net. It was just a little bit snake bitten in the playoffs. But the point is that he was really good offensively, and he's just that hard worker that we talked about. Joe, you mentioned the speed comparison to Eyssimont and Gord. I actually pulled up the stats from NHL Edge. So which guy do you think has the higher top speed from the entire season between Gord and Eyssimont?
I don't like the way you're kind of setting us up for it, but I'm going to go with Mikey Eyssimont, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was Gord.
Yeah,
Joe, you thought it was Eyssimont, right?
I think Eyssimont definitely got a faster acceleration, but let's go for top speed. Who's got better top speed?
So it's really, really close in that both guys hit 22 miles an hour as their top speed, but Eyssimont is 22.60, whereas Gord is 22.75. So Gord just barely edges him out in top speed. Here's the interesting, though, that really surprises me. Eyssimont only one burst over 22 miles an hour. Gord, 176 of burst over 20 miles an hour.
That's their positions. That's the positioning that they're playing, like in which line they are, because you're not getting offensive chances with him too much, where you're streaking down the ice really, really heavily. It's going to be more reactionary defensive stuff, so you're not going full speed. I mean, if he starts getting better and putting the puck in the back of the net, watch those numbers go up.
Yeah, that's very, very true. And listen, at the end of the day, top speed, very, very close for both of those guys. They're very similar, and we're glad to have Eyssimont, no question about it. I think he's been fantastic for the Lightning. Been one of the better acquisitions made by JBB. He's made so many good ones.
It's a rare trade where both teams kind of win the deal. Vlad Nemesnikov, he was a ghost in his, re-tenure on the Lightning last year. He really didn't do a whole lot for us, and once he went over to Winnipeg, it seemed like a perfect fit for him. Even all throughout this year, he had a couple goals in the playoffs before he got injured, and then Mikey Eyssimont just really provided a good bit of a boost to us in our lineup. So a very rare trade where both teams kind of win.
All right, let's go for the grade for these guys. Joe, we'll start with you this time. What is your grade for Eyssimont in the 2023 to 2024 season?
Going on a true, grading scale where a C is an average. That's, what somebody playing that position on average would get. No, I'm not giving him a C. I'm just qualifying
no.
The grading scale is supposed to work.
I hate the idea that C is average. That's what I was shaking my head at.
Hey, man, that's what got me through high school. I love that.
Are you saying that it's really, really bad? Are you just a straight A guy?
Long story short, the whole saying C's get degrees I don't like, because I think C is not average for me. But go ahead.
All right, well, that's the basis that I'm putting this on, because we don't really have much else to go on for him in terms of how much we've seen him play. But for someone that's in his position and what we kind of expected, I'd say that he did really well. I like this to say that he could have played even better if he played with Jeannot, and that's the one thing that I'd like to have seen if he played more with Jeannot, because Jeannot got hurt. But I'm gonna give him a B. I think it was a really good season for him. I think he can do more, though.
I'll go. You kind of swayed my opinion, Joe, a little bit. I was thinking C+, but Jake kind of swayed my opinion a little bit, saying C suck. I'll go B-. Again, just a little bit more. I'd like to see a little bit more from him, and it might have been just a product of who he was playing with, and not the most fleet of foot guys. Maybe didn't really vibe with his style of play. at least offensively. But yeah, B minus. Again, there's another gear I think that can be unlocked, but again, not at all a bad season by Mike Eyssimont. Did most everything right that he could. I think a B minus is a very fair grade.
I was too harsh on Joe. I jumped the gun a little bit because that was my exact grade. Was a B. I agree with you 100%. Listen, Eyssimont was very good offensively. He's a hard worker. Would you like to see a little more offensive output? Yeah, probably, especially late in the season, I think. But overall, I think he's been a really good player for us. And so I get the B. And it seems like our viewers and listeners agree with us on the grade B as well. Here's a comment from Beverly on YouTube said, I think he'll be on the ice with Kucherov as soon as he finishes with men's internationals, which, by the way, that's a good point. We didn't bring up. A lot of the players are playing in that tournament right now. Hagel, Eyssimont, Paul, Hedman is playing for Team Sweden as well. There's a couple of guys out there who are playing very well. There's a great, by the way, pass from Paul to Bedard, which we'll have to get to when we talk about Nick Paul later in the series. But Beverly also goes with a B as well. So, yeah, I 100% agree with that. Grade B for Eyssimont there in the 2023 to 2024 season. All right, we got one more player to talk about for today's episode. And it's going to be an interesting one, I think, to talk about here. And it's Austin Watson, a guy that we probably didn't expect to see this year for the Lightning. Heck, he was signed late. He was signed to a PTO, actually, before he got to his official contract. By the way, I should mention, speaking of contracts, Eyssimont is signed through next year, and then will become an unrestricted free agent. So still one more of Eyssimont to be expected in a Lightning uniform at the very least. But Austin Watson comes in on a PTO, ends up making the team. To I think some people surprised. He had a pretty darn good preseason, though. And then he comes in. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent next season. He finishes with 33 games played, 2 goals, 2 assists for 4 points, and was a +2. But you didn't bring in Austin Watson for his point production. You brought him in to be that gritty player, that guy that's going to fight a lot of players and play in those nasty Bruin/quarter people that happen all of the time. So, guys, your thoughts on Austin Watson?
You heard me before the show and in the chat and all that. I like Austin Watson. I like him a lot. I have even before, he was on the Tampa Bay Lightning. But again, he's nothing. He's nothing special. And I hate saying that. He's going to be more successful than I ever will be. But again, he's nothing special. We knew, what we were getting with Watson. He's a fighter, not a scorer. He's not a playmaker or anything. He's strictly a fighter and a disturber out there. And I think he played the role well. I don't think he won many of his fights this year, but I can't say he, really got beat on a lot of them either. He was only in the lineup for what'd you say, 33 games or something?
Correct.
Slotting in, 1 in every 4 games or something like that. He did have one of his 2 goals. One of them was a pretty big goal, and I think he got 1 or 2 goals called back as well. I can't quite remember when, middle of the season or something, but I think he performed his role well, but not, again, just nothing spectacular. It's kind of, your 20th skater on or I guess your 14th, 15th forward that you're going to put in. So he didn't do anything special, but I thought he was just good enough for the role that we did have him in. I like Austin Watson. He's a locker room guy. He's goofy. He's a great interview, but, on the ice, you know what you're getting with him.
Yeah, it seems almost like that was kind of a maroon replacement in a sense, and a role guy, bottom line guy. He did have 93 penalty minutes in the 33 games. So he told me, I don't have it broken down, but that's a lot of fighting, and that's what he was brought in to do, is just rattle the other players. He had 85 hits in 33 games. That's with someone that's as big as him. See, 6'4". Yeah, somebody bringing you down on the ice, 6'4", going to make a hit, and then wants to beat you up after doing it. That's an intimidating guy, and I know that's exactly what JBB and Cooper were going for this season, is to be difficult to play against. I just don't know that I really like that as an overall choice. I suppose the fact that he had a plus-minus of +2 means that not a lot was going on while he was on the ice. So, we weren't scoring, they weren't scoring, because he he only has a total of 17 shots on goal for the entire season. Yeah, not too much, but is still, I guess, kind of effective in his role, because if the other team's not scoring, you shut down the other line, then you leave it up to your top players to make up the difference. So he's a role player, and that's what he did well this season.
Before I get to my thoughts on Austin Watson, I think I might have to change my grade on Eyssimont, because a comment here from Beverly again that said Eyssimont also scored a USA goal in one game. So, hey, listen, if you're doing it for Team USA, I might have to bump him up to an A. I love a guy that goes out there and plays well for Team USA. So I had to throw that in there real quick. But listen, Austin Watson, as I said before, he's not there for his point production. He's there for his physicality, which I did think he brought for the most part. There were a couple of times I was surprised that he wasn't in the lineup when the Lightning were playing some of those physical teams. So it seems like John Cooper and the coaching staff kind of tried to use him not just for his physicality, because, Matt, you're right. He did score a couple big goals, and by a couple I mean two, against how many goals he had, but he did do it occasionally, and that was nice. It's an added bonus for a guy like that when he fit that role. But I was surprised a couple of times that he was not in the lineup sometimes. I don't know the exact reasoning for that, but at the end of the day, he was the physicality guy, and that's what he mostly did. Now, whether Austin Watson will be back next season, that's tough to say. The Lightning had originally signed him to a PTO. Let me ask you guys that. Do you think Austin Watson comes back next year? Because he is an unrestricted free agent. There's a lot of question marks for the Lightning when it comes to the contract situations, but they are getting that cap jump. We don't know what's going to happen with Steven Stamkos or some of the other big names. Do you see / do you want Austin Watson back on the team next year?
I'll say give him another PTO and see what else we have. And if he's willing to take a two-way, that season played a lot of time down, there's not really too much downside to an agreement with that.
I like Joe's answer. I've got no problem with him coming back. I don't, it's kind of hard to tell. I don't think the team needs him. There's not plenty of guys just like him, but it's not a rare player you're going to get. It's getting a little rarer as the years go on, but I wouldn't mind him back, but I don't think he'll be back.
Listen, if he signs like a vet minimum or something like that on a cheap contract, why not? It's not going to hurt you. He played well enough, I think, to deserve another shot at it for his role. So why not bring him back if it works out for the Lightning in the cap? And he is relatively cheap for the most part. So I think the Lightning should be able to do that. All right, let's go to player grade for Austin Watson. I'll start this one off. I had a tough time thinking of a grade for him because, listen, I don't want to give him too low of a grade. I don't think he was bad necessarily. He didn't do anything crazy, though, as well. So I'm going to go with a C. I'm right in the middle of the pack. I give Austin Watson a C for this year. He did what he was supposed to do. But, of course, I think even you want your guys to succeed at the highest possible level. I don't think he was there. So I'm going with a C. Joe, what about you?
Save me for last.
Oh, okay. All right. Matt, what do you got?
I wanted to go last.
Okay, well, I just wanted to hear your arguments because how about this? There's an Instagram comment. Why don't we listen to that? Because I'm not completely sold.
All right, let's take a look. What is that? The comment we got here. Great guys. Speed just isn't there. Need some heavy hitters, but need a little speed with them as well. The fact that today's NHL, the old school grinders just aren't fast. Yeah, that is a good point. Listen, he was kind of like that Pat Maroon type of player. Just that physical. I'm going to throw my body around. So,
that helped.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That helped for me. I'm going to give him a D+. He was a little slow out there. He was throwing his body around, but old school players like that aren't exactly what the team needs anymore. And that's where thank you for helping me make a decision there, Nick.
What were you gonna go with, F?
I was really torn between a C- because he was playing a role, and you kind of knew what you're going to get out of him, and that's what he gave you, and a D-, which I don't know if the Lightning ended up benefiting much from what they got out of him.
All right, I get that, and I'm going to be a little nicer. I was thinking C for Austin Watson again. He just didn't do anything spectacular. You knew what he was getting in X, Y, and Z, whatever I said beforehand. But there was just the Vasilevsky interview one game, and then Austin Watson just coming down the hallway and letting one rip right in front of the mic. I got to give him a C+ for that. I have to, man. He's a locker room guy. He's a glue guy. He's a vibes guy. So I have to give him just a little bit of a bump for that. So I'll go C+.
Only Matt can give the guy the extra low grade for ripping one during a interview for Vasilevsky. Well, there you go. All right. Yeah, listen, I think Austin Watson overall, the role is what really helped him. It didn't blow anybody out of the water, but hey, for a role guy sitting at C average, I think is really fair. Let's see what he can do if he does come back next season for the Lightning, and if he plays a bigger role at all for the Bolts. But guys, I think that's going to do it for us in this episode, kicking off the player grades. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're still hanging out with us. We really do appreciate it. Or follow us on social media at RBL Lightning, at RBLR Sports, because we'll be going through the entire roster. We're going through all the big players, giving them some grades, giving our thoughts on the Lightning and their seasons this year. Of course, we'll be talking about all of the fun off-season stuff that we got coming up as well, whether it's the draft or free agency. And yes, the Lightning do still have a couple of draft picks, so there's still some things to talk about, even though they traded most of the way. But with that said, thank you guys so much for tuning in once again. We'll talk to you in the next one. Go Bolts!
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.